Hey, what's good, fight fans? This is your man Wood. Just another bite down boxing video, kind of touching base on last night's humongous announcement of the middleweight unification bout between Claressa Shields of Flint, Michigan, and Christina Hammer of, I believe it's Dortmund, Germany. And just wanted to offer a few words on that, and then my one note of caution. And I'll get into that. But first, I want to thank the recent uptick in subscribers to the Pay Me No Mind channel, which hosts the Bite Down Boxing videos that I'll be putting out more regularly moving forward. I just really appreciate that. And kind of Oh, and then also thanks for the feedback from a couple of different individuals, which affirms my view that there was a void among the various boxing channels that I thought Bite Down Boxing could occupy and begin to offer certain kind of fight fans an alternative, out here in this space. And then lastly, the Bite Down Boxing coverage over at the website has slowed down just a little bit because I've been working on putting together a live stream show that I want to start with in the coming weeks. And that's been like a 4 or 5 week project just that's been held up because of me having to overcome different technical issues with a range of different things in the PC game that's just not my skill set. So I think I've just about ironed or worked most of those bugs out and putting together the final touches. And I would like to do a live stream as early as this week, but it may not happen this week. Definitely not in the form that I really want to aim that I'm aiming for ultimately, but it could happen. I am going over to Indiana Saturday, most likely, to check out a local Dayton fighter who's fighting for his first title over there. You might have saw that video before this one. So that's about an hour and a half, 2 hour drive and everything. So I may not get to the live stream this Saturday or Sunday. But let's get on to the big news. Claressa Shields, the WBA and IBF middleweight champion versus Christina Hammer, the WBC and WBO middleweight champ. The winner of this could join Alexander Usyk, the cruiserweight undisputed champion, and then welterweight champ on the women's side, Cecilia Brækhus. So this is a phenomenal event. Salute to Showtime Boxing for continuing its investment in women's boxing and being a leader in that endeavor, or helping with the growth of that sport. They seem to be getting it right, and I tip my hat to them and Stephen Espinosa. Also, salute to Salida Promotions for continuing to put or make Claressa, a priority in what they want to do with their promotional activity, and to continue to keep putting events around her. So she's kind of polarizing, and I don't know if I'll get to that because I was trying to keep this to maybe 5.5 or 6 minutes. So I don't know if I'll get into all of that, but it's a great development. It kind of bolsters the remaining or the fourth quarter, of 2018, and helps along with some of the other developments we've had this year and the December 1st with Wilder and Fury being out there. It also helps this continue to live up to the momentum that boxing gained with the exciting 2017 that we all had the chance to experience. So obviously we see this year with all the announcements with Top Rank, ESPN Plus, the Zone coming online if you're a fan of that. But boxing seems to be doing exceptionally well. So shout out to everybody who got together and made this, brought this thing home and delivering this fight to fight fans. It'll be going down Saturday. This gets Claressa Shields off of the Friday night, which is kind of, I don't know, like JV or college football day. Now she gets to go to Saturday night, which is kind of that premier spot, for big time boxing. So this marks the first time for her appearing on a, Saturday. It's the first time that women are being the marquee or main event of a Saturday night telecast. So it's a lot of historical aspects of this fight. But it's going down November 17th, airing on Showtime Boxing at 10:30 p.m. And it's going down in Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City. I know there were discussions being had about this going, happening in Detroit or maybe New York, or that was one of the holdups was, where they could pull this thing off. I guess getting around to my major concern about the fight, and this is not trying to be negative at the opening of the promotion and the build up to the fight. Tickets go on sale this Friday, by the way. But my major concern is that regardless of the outcome of this fight, regardless of the winner, regardless of how the action in the ring actually plays out that night, my major concern is that if it's not as dramatic as, say, Hannah Gabriel's and Claressa Shields fight was back in June, or if it's just not as memorable for whatever reason, that the hype and the build-up, and the promotion of this event is going to be, I just hope that it doesn't affect the current trajectory of women's boxing. The women's game should not be judged solely on whether or not this fight delivers. And definitely, and us fans, whether you're casual, super casual, casual, adjacent, a purist, an expert, a guy with the podcast, whatever, it's going to be a wide range of, takeaways from this fight. But so let's get into it. I think some things to be concerned about or to keep in mind, the women's power punching and the length of the rounds are things that are still we're still kind of getting the understanding of how to look at these things. So I bring this up because, it can very well, a lot of times on the men's side, a fight is judged by the knockout or explosive moments. And, if you saw the Shields Gabriel's fight, there was a knockdown, I believe, in the first round. But, Hammer and Nelson boxed it out, went the distance. And then when Shields fought Tori, though she swept the fight and it was one-sided, it went the distance. So there may not be that super climactic, ending. But that doesn't mean that we don't see a lot of skill. That we won't see a lot of skill. And then also with the length of rounds, we need to leave that discussion alone. We're not asking college basketball to go on the men's side to go from 20-minute halves to 4 quarters. We're not seeing that much of a difference in the game, just because of the difference in the format. We're not asking for college football players to put both feet down on sideline catches or back of the end zone. The three-pointer in the men's game is not, doesn't match the NBA. So there's just difference in sports that we get over and we accept. So the 2-minute round, until there's more discussion on that, until that's aligned with the men's game, we need to move over that. That doesn't mean that the skill isn't taking place inside that 2 minutes. The one thing that I'm concerned about, though, is that being that it's 3 minutes, it may be taken away for the natural development of some of the adversity that we see fighters overcome with fatigue. It also it might speed up the effect or the approach of the female fighters, of the women. It takes time to develop a body work. It just seems like it might put the way that the fight is being fought. It just seems like it might be rushing that in some regards. But do keep in mind that the doubleheader with Shields and Gabriel's and Hammer and Nelson, the TV numbers for that were comparable or better I don't have my stats right in front of me, but it was comparable to the Joshua and Parker heavyweight unification fight. And it wasn't too far behind the Leo Santa Cruz and Abner Matters card that also had Charlo on there. So some of these metrics that we might want to go to doesn't mean it shouldn't affect the future, the first 6 months of 2019 in regards to women's boxing. And then also, just looking at the June 22nd fight, in some of the spaces that I was on, some of the podcasts that I listened to, some of the stuff that I saw online, some, Twitter, social media and whatnot, it was very interesting that Hammer stock raised dramatically or significantly in her performance against Tori Nelson. But on the other hand, a lot of critiques, of Shields was like she either plateaued, she isn't what she was said to be, or some people even found a way to downgrade her in that performance, maybe because of the knockdown. Some people talked about the attendance inside the Detroit Masonic Temple that night. Again, I don't know how you don't understand that, how some people didn't understand that Claressa fought a way more accomplished boxer, a unified, middleweight champion that night, and someone that had, a market advantage in ring experience. That's why that fight played out the way that it did. But you still see that she fought back, she got up off the mat, and, however the cards played out, I thought one of them may have been a little wide, but she went on to dominate the rest of the fight and win that bout. So, like I said, the takeaway after the Shields and Hammer fight, depending on how that plays out, Shields still may not get her credit if she does emerge as the winner. I think at this point in time, that's who I would favor in that fight. But we'll have to see. I take nothing away from Hammer, but, it is that same old matchup of a U.S. fighter versus the Euro fighter. And while Hammer, does use her length well, she has the height advantage, she has the experience. I believe she's 23-0. It should be an excellent fight. So I'm gonna cut this off here. I went about 5 minutes longer than what I intended to do. And the other thing is, it'll be very interesting to see how Showtime shapes up the rest of the undercard. I think that's going to be very telling, or that'll be a deciding factor in kind of the excitement or the reception of the event. Is how the rest of the is it a triple header, which is kind of a signature format for Showtime the last 18 months. Will it be a triple header, or will it just be an exciting double header, with a good name, in the co-main event or the opener? So, hey, that's all I have. Again, thanks for all of the growing support and people checking in on me, Wood, and the Bite Down Boxing podcast. I'll be putting up one hopefully later on tonight, and we'll continue to rock with that. So, hey, I'm out. And like I always say on most of my podcasts, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Peace.